here tonight.
Do we have any correspondence?
Oh, none. None? No, no,
Correct.
nothing.
So just the next part of the agenda is for visitor statements. I just want to let people know that we're gonna, we actually have 2 points in time this evening where people can make visitor statements. One is now, and then we're also gonna open up for public comment with respect to our levy. So if you have a comment about the levy, you could do it when we have our public meeting, or you could do it at the initial comment section. It's up to you. With that as background, do we
There's a
have,
gentleman in the back.
Are you doing public comments now?
with that, well, the public comment for the levy, we're waiting.
No, this isn't on the levy.
Okay, the visitor statements, we're opening up now. So Dan, do you wanna,
Oh, thank you, Mr. Frost.
and I think you know the rules, please keep it under 3 minutes.
Your name and
And-
village.
Name and village for purposes of the public notice.
Daniel Vishny, Buffalo Grove. Happy Hanukkah, happy second night of Hanukkah, for those of you celebrating like me. Merry Christmas. Want to give recognition to, I was hoping Mr. Gobble was here today, but I just want to give recognition that he gave me a lot of time in a meeting from the October meeting. I couldn't make last month's meeting with the conflict. So I had a chance to meet in his office for about an hour and a half towards the end of October. He was very gracious with his time, and we had an open discussion about a lot of issues. As my son graduated Stevenson 10.5 years ago, but I'm still a member of the community and somebody who cares greatly. So I want to give big recognition to Mr. Gobble that we had a nice open conversation about a lot of things, including like a curriculum point that I've spoken with Mark as well, relating possibly in the soft skills area to offer an elective course that would mirror like a Dale Carnegie course on soft skills. And that was a good part of the discussion. I want to give recognition to Mr. Gobble for his time there. We know we all get a great technical education here and get us ready for college and careers and whatnot. And I think that aspect of the conversation was also worthwhile, and you know, that kind of dialogue is very good there. So it's good to see. I think there needs to be more of that type of dialogue rather than everybody just staying in their little echo chambers that everybody thinks that they think that there's commonality of ideas all the time, because there's not. This is a great institution, but it can always improve, and I believe, and a lot of community members that probably are very silent, that there should be two sides of conversation relating to certain issues. Because we all kind of shake our heads and be conformists, that everything is okay, everything is very good here, but there can be improvements made, and those type of discussions should be taken on and should be encouraged. So everybody should just get out of their common beliefs and see there's a couple different ways to go about addressing issues which may be challenging. And I would encourage you to do that rather than just sit there and think that everybody agrees with everything that goes on. So I want to recognize Mr. Gobble again. I thought it was really nice and have that type of dialogue with a very interested community member and a parent of a graduate from a while back. So please heed, this type of statement. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Alex, the floor is yours.
All right, hi everyone. It's kind of crazy to say that this is the last board meeting of the semester. I mean, time has gone by so fast. Started off the year warm, nice, out in the sun. Now all of you guys are equipped with your winter apparel, so definite change. I'm already getting the sniffles, so we're getting through it. But it's been a great winter, and I'm excited to see where next semester goes. So just starting off with academics, course selection started off for freshmen recently in the beginning of December. A lot of them experienced some kind of confusion of which pathway to take, but Stevenson faculty, along with FMPs, did a really good job on explaining different pathways, and like I said in a previous meeting, mentioning and prioritizing that not one pathway is correct. There's several different ways you can go about choosing courses, so that was really helpful for all the freshmen. I know my advisor in particular had a lot of questions. They're usually a quiet group, but this time they spoke up and asked questions, so that was really nice to see. And then recently, the accounting, marketing, interior design classes took field trips to Chicago and I believe Milwaukee for one of them, just to further explore those fields in an immersive setting. So that was a really great opportunity just to learn more about those specific sectors in our society and how they can apply it in their future careers if they're really interested in those fields. And then competition-wise, Science Olympiad received 25 medals, which is crazy, at a Palatine Invitational. So it's just great to see all these science whizzes doing so well within the competition aspect. Another trip per se, creative writing courses recently traveled to UW Whitewater, and they were able to submit their own personal works for competition, and a lot of them actually received multiple distinctions, so it was kind of cool to be immersed in a college environment. I know creative writing is a senior class, so a lot of seniors are already aware of colleges, but I believe as well other students were able to attend this. And then Illinois State Scholars were recently named, so the top 10%, I believe, in Illinois for academic scores and GPA-wise. So I was an Illinois State Scholar, so that was cool to see in the mail. But yeah, and then finally, the esports team placed first in the inaugural Play VS League of Legends. Not really sure what that is, but congratulations to the esports team. I'm gonna try to keep this one really short because I know you guys have a tight schedule. And there's also a lot of.
You can take all the time you.
Sorry. I know there's a lot of charity work going on within athletics as well. I mean, for NHS, we're specifically trying to plan our next spring event and create something new within the athletic range. So I will tell you guys more about that in March when it occurs. But the boys hockey team, through their different games against St. Viator and Waukegan, were able to raise money for St. Jude's Hospital, inspired after a 9-year-old with pediatric cancer, and the Heartland Animal Shelter. So it's just great to see athletics and charity combined. And then girls gymnastics won their first championship at Rolling Meadows for this year. So another gold medal, that's also cool to see. Along with boys swimming and diving also placing first within the Stevenson relays that took place at Stevenson. So also great to see. And then recently we had the Freshman Fan Appreciation Night, where freshmen were admitted to the boys basketball game against Lake Forest for free. I know they had like a Culver's giveaway. A lot of them got free shirts too. So just another way to encourage involvement and boost our support for our athletics team. Okay, and a lot of things have been happening within the arts department recently. I mean, it is the holidays, music is thriving during this time of the year, so it's just kind of cool to see how it's related to Stevenson. So I know we recently had the winter dance concert and the student and the band concert and the choir concert. So that's a picture, I believe, of the orchestra concert. And then we also had this event where Stevenson students were able to perform their own work and share it with others as well. As you can see from the person playing piano right there, that's really cool, along with the art show. So that I saw that piece and I was like, that is crazy. How can someone draw that? I can barely draw stick figures. But we have a lot of very talented artists here at Stevenson, so it's just great to see all of the amazing work that people have done. at the end of the year and just throughout the semester itself. And then to the left is the Failed Presidential Candidates Improv Show. I personally went to this and they cracked me up. They're so hilarious. A lot of laughs, a lot of jokes. It's kind of nice, you know, with finals coming up to have some kind of humor maneuvered intertwined with that. So that's great. And then again, a lot of different music productions. I know one is happening tonight as well, specifically. But in the past, there's been band, orchestra, the winter dance concert right there. Yeah. And then Give-a-thon. So this is an event that NHS board, which I'm a part of, really planned thoroughly and that a lot of people at our school have been involved in for the past month in November, and we recently got to see our impact on that through Collection Day and Delivery Day. We had a record-breaking 400 families supported. A lot of children received gifts, 1,200 specifically, and we got 67 bikes, which is a lot because when I went to Walmart, a bike was like $100, so that's $6,700 worth of bikes right there. So that is just crazy to see, but you can just see the hard work in action, all those gifts right there in the warehouse, students helping loading the trucks on Delivery Day, just getting together to do something fun and meaningful. And then this past week, so last week, Peer Helpers had a de-stress week. It's finals time. Early decisions were released last week and are being released this week. So a lot of stress is in the air, just trying to finish up the school year and reach that finish line of winter break. So Peer Helpers kind of helped us with that by bringing comfort dogs, having this tea time session. I know on Wednesday they had an Instagram takeover, and then Thursday, they gave kindness cards out to everyone. So that was really nice, really motivational. And then Friday they had trivia as well. So these showcase the different events and aspects students and Stevenson have been implementing to just ease our way through this week and into winter break, where we can celebrate their time with their families for Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever holiday they're celebrating, and just to nicely end the year. So this has been Stevenson in 2022. A lot of different events have happened, both good and bad, but this just shows how Stevenson students use the events and spirit we have to get through those bad moments, along with celebrating the good through their passions, seeing other people pursue their passions, whether it be a play, a competition, serving others, or just doing something for fun. Yeah, that's it for today. This is amazing.
Really neat the way you put that together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions for Alex?
You just
Again.
did another amazing job.
Yes.
Have a
Thank you
wonderful
so much.
winter break.
Thank you so much. You guys have a great winter break too.
Thank you so
Take
much.
care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Grab a cookie on your way.
Wait, we got awards. You wanna stay for the awards?
Sure.
Sounds okay.
I'll stop
All right.
screeching.
Yep. You
All
wanna-
right, moving on. So tonight, we're very excited to begin the meeting with a series of awards. And our ambassador awards are awards that are reserved for our students and every once in a great while a faculty or staff member, but who have achieved some of the highest honors that are available to them, including the highest levels of academic achievement and or the highest levels of athletic or activity achievement. And so tonight, we're just blessed to be able to honor a number of individuals. And so Mark Onishek, our Director of Curriculum and Instruction, will take it away.
Yeah, we're very, very excited to announce a few of our state champions, and I thought I would begin with the IHSA 2A Girls Tennis Individual State Champion. Her name is Sarah Wang. She was unable to be here this evening, but I did want to share out her name publicly, along with Coach Jose Morales and Coach Mindy Fitzgibbons. So we want to We do have a truly outstanding group of swimmers here tonight. They are our 200 freestyle state swim champions. I'm gonna announce their names. Abby Collins. She's better eventually.
Your mom is sitting right there, so take a look.
Thanks.
Congratulations. Why don't you stand right over here?
Stephanie Kurova.
Want to take a picture?
Got it.
Lania Florin.
Picture. Thanks.
Izzy Gatone.
Congratulations. You bet.
And Coach Ayrton Casement.
Thank you very much. I don't know if anyone's filming, but I'll take a picture. Unfortunately, my parents are not here.
Why don't you guys take a group pictures? I'll get out of the way.
This one's for Stevenson's Instagram, so. Hold tighter, 1, 2, 3.
Congratulations.
Questions.
Oh, questions.
This is a big swim fan.
Who was the anchor on this, on the relay?
I was the anchor.
How'd that last lap go?
I mean, it was nerve-wracking, but I think I blacked out for most of it. I don't remember anything. I just remember touching the wall.
That's a good thing. What was the time, winning time?
We went a 1:33.0.
Awesome. Congratulations, you guys.
Thank you.
Us two are.
Yeah.
The leadoff and the
The
anchor. was
lead off
here.
and the sandwich.
Sandwich is coming back next year again, right?
Yeah.
Super senior, yeah.
You go some swimming in college?
Probably.
Probably?
Yes.
Where have you gone?
I don't know.
You
She
don't know?
does.
I'm going to watch you next year.
Wow. That's great. And you don't know yet?
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Okay,
So how many years you guys have been practicing in the water? Since you were 3 years old, 4 years old?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was
Probably.
6 when I started
Oh, you
swimming.
started
Wow.
at 6, wow. Pretty early.
Same.
Same? Wow.
Started at 10 competitively.
wow. And
Same, but I was probably started swimming at 4.
4? Wow.
So
Four
it was
years
up
old.
for a bit.
yeah.
I started when I was 6. Yeah, coaching, yep.
Coaching since 4 years old.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Thank All right.
And we have one last person to recognize, so if you wanna stick around, that would be great. His name is Alfredo Acosto. What's your name, Alfredo? This young man has been working here at Stevenson for 45 years. an amazing amount of time, and I'll just say he is not just a fantastic staff member here, but just a wonderful family man and just a dear, dear person to get to know. So I want to give him a big round of applause.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Another 45? That's maybe we'll do a couple.
I want to say thank you very much, everybody. Because this school, I started when I was single. So, and then I married, I got my wife, bought a house. Thanks for the job I got. This place, I take care more than my house.
Oh,
Yeah.
my gosh.
And I love my job. I'm not tired yet. Because I like it what I do.
Good. Well, thank you.
Thank you so
Right.
much for
Thank you,
your
everybody.
service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one more award to give. We have someone who has been working with us closely, for at least 2 years. And unfortunately, she's gonna be retiring soon. And we wanted to give her something to show our appreciation for all that she's done for us, because she is always there to help us. And it's not just that she's there, it's her view, her attitude. You've been incredible, and we really appreciate everything you've done. So let us give you a couple of thanks. One I think will be special is a notebook with comments that people have written.
Thank you.
Here's a gift.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
So here's a handshake. I want it if no one else does.
1, 2.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We appreciate
you.
So Gary, similar question. What was the last leg like? The last 2 years? Thank you, Carol.
Welcome. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for that part of the meeting. It's always fun to be able to recognize folks with our ambassador awards. But the second best part of the meeting is always our curriculum team presentations. And tonight we have representatives from our social studies division, and including Brad Smith, our director. And so I'll let you introduce your team and kick us off.
Well, thank you. And good evening. Very tough acts there to follow.
You guys, yeah, do you wanna move over to that corner? Wherever you're more comfortable.
Where are you on
You're
this?
flexible. You can be more comfortable and you can point at me.
So there's 4 members of the team.
We have 3 members of this team. Actually, it's 2 teams, believe it or not. It's AP Microeconomics and AP Macroeconomics, but to keep it simple, we're AP Economics for tonight. And it is a absolutely wonderful bunch that I am thrilled to get to introduce, and I have to take us on a bit of a journey. Maybe 8, 9, 10 years ago even, I remember talking with Sandra quite extensively, because we had a 4-person AP Econ team that we had a cluster of retirees coming. And we sat down and really talked through, what do we want and what do we think we need to keep the strength of a really strong economics, AP Economics program going and growing, but also meet some of the adjustments and changes in the type of education and instruction we're looking for our students. And Sandra and I really sat there and talked through. We want people that do know econ, and that's not exactly easy to always find in the social studies world. So finding econ people, but people who really, really, truly care about individual students the way we here at Stevenson care, and then that want to learn and grow as educators. And that's sometimes difficult to find with the economics hires that are out there that don't always come with the same credentials and certification and have different paths. But finding people that are truly, truly committed to learning and growing together because they care about the kids, and the economics is important, but it's secondary to that. And we're thrilled to have this thriving team, and if you move to the next
Yep, there we are.
page, you'll see it is a growing team. And oddly enough, one of the neat things about this presentation tonight is it's 3 years in the working. We started these conversations, actually more than 3 years in the working. So a lot of those faces there, I think
Yeah.
Anthony certainly wasn't here at the time. And some of them were
Theo
certainly
was,
younger. Theo also wasn't here when we started talking about having a
I don't think they were the thoughts.
and we will soon be adding to the picture as well, which is wonderful too. But we wanted to come together and talk about the ways that this team or teams have really taken the task of integrating academic SEL within their discipline in meaningful and purposeful ways that I think are leading us to a place of student self-reflection and really very personalized academic agency, which they take very seriously and is near and dear to their hearts. And though we weren't using the terms probably 9-10 years ago, but finding a team that would keep that growth and moving towards that individualized student agency is really what you guys are here. I'm going to show us about, and I'm very proud to have you doing the work you've been doing the last 6-7 years. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm Lindsay DePaul. This is my 5th year on the economics team. This year I'm teaching college prep economics and AP Micro.
I'm Sandra Wright. I'm 24 years on the econ team, so I do micro, macro. Yeah. I'm looking up here and I'm like, the energy that these two have brought in is just amazing. It's just awesome. I like everything about what we are at Stevenson, these two embody. It's been awesome.
And I am Chloe Maddock. I have been teaching econ for 7 years, and apart from AP Macro, I also teach AP Human Geography. So step outside of that realm a little bit.
Okay, so I know you all have a burning question every night. So you're thinking to yourself, wow, what's the difference between micro and macro? So it was cute when the student representative was talking about helping kids figure out what classes might be a good fit for them and what are opportunities that they can try, because we get this conversation every year in our department from our colleagues, like what's the difference between micro and macro? Content-wise or curriculum-wise, the macroeconomics perspective is going to be looking at most of the stuff we're going to see in our headlines. You know, I just was watching the Janet Yellen thing. Are we headed into a recession? What's going on with inflation? What's happening with unemployment rates? All the really exciting, good news that rolls out, especially in the last couple of years. All that good macro news. So that's the piece for us. It's definitely more of the social studies. Our kids who love social studies, this is the way we really kind of hook them in. And then we go from there and we hook them in with micro. Microeconomics is going to be looking at how do firms decide price and quantity of output, and how is the airline industry different than a farmer's market and different from a pharmaceutical company that might have a patent, and so things as simple as how do you decide how to maximize your capacity when you're at the Patriot Wellness Center and you're trying to decide, do I get a smoothie and an Akashi bowl given the amount of money that I have, and then like one other treat, what's the optimal combination? So we're just trying to expose kids to kind of the field and tie as much social studies and math, and so we try to make it as interdisciplinary as possible, but we are social studies geeks, so I'm just gonna say that, put that right out there.
Okay, so as Brad mentioned to you guys, this presentation's actually been 3-4 years in the making. It started back in the fall of 2019. We were actually supposed to present to you guys in the spring of 2020, but because of the pandemic, that got postponed. And then we were supposed to go again last December, and scheduling conflict got postponed again. So here we are, finally, doing our presentation. But we thought it was really important to kind of tell you guys where we started out at back in 2019, and then how that has evolved into what we are doing today, because we've really taken our initial foothold and just transformed our two classes altogether. So we have two kind of things that we've been working on. The first one, just kind of looking at the CASTLE framework, is this idea of self-awareness. This is something that in macro we've really kind of taken hold of, and it's been used in conjunction with the student voice survey, and we've really kind of transformed our course as a result of that. And then responsible decision making is the other one, which AP Micro has really been kind of focusing in on, and we've kind of, I'm stealing Janessa's analogy, had these two tracks of trains that have been running, and we're gonna slowly start to merge them. So Micro this year officially adopted the self-awareness component, and Macro will soon adopt the responsible decision making. So we wanted to kind of tell you about both of these because we have some great work going on in both classes that's merging together. So to start us out, this idea of self-awareness and the student voice survey. So if you want to flip. When we first sat down with Molly back in fall of 2019, we took a look at our student voice survey, and all three of us were teaching AP Macro at the time, and we realized that there was one area in particular that the numbers were relatively low, and that was the valuing of subject. So if you don't know, the topics for student voice survey are listed there. Valuing of subject is one of those topics. Specifically within this, the students are asked the following questions. How interesting do you find the things that you're learning in class? How useful do you think the class is to your future? How important is it for you to do well? How much, if at all, do these topics relate to your personal values? And then how often do you use these ideas from class in your daily life? So overall, we realized, okay, we're doing a great job of teaching the content. Our kids are doing really well, relatively speaking, on the AP exam, but they're not seeing how this relates to their daily life, which with macro is a little hard, because how do you look at what the Federal Reserve is doing and the federal government, and how do you connect those policies to your daily life? So with this, you want to start? We really wanted to kind of look at how we could grow this particular category. So when we started in the spring of 2019, our valuing of subject was at 58% across the board. And we have what, about 250-ish kids each semester that take this class. And then through the work that we've been doing, we've now gotten that all the way up to 78% over the course of these past couple of years. So we've seen a substantial amount of growth. So we wanted to kind of tell you guys what we've done to grow this category. So what we did is, again, like I said, took a look at that student voice data, and we're like, this is an area that we feel is a deficiency, and we really could do a lot better at helping kids understand why this is important for them to understand on a day-to-day basis. So what it ended up leading to is the realization that we needed to create an entire new skill. We had two skills. We had the economic application, or analysis, thank you, which was the multiple choice kind of component of the class, and we had our graphing, which was FRQ writing. Those kind of fell in line with the College Board and the skills that they're expected to perform on that particular exam. But what we ended up realizing is there's a whole component of this class that is missing that is just as valuable as that, and it was the academic application. So what we decided to do was create an entire skill. It has been a labor of love that is still evolving. And essentially what we've decided to do is at the end of every unit, we ask the kids to make these conclusions, to take what we've talked about in class and apply it to their day-to-day life. And we've developed this through a series of projects, one of which is uniform to both macro and micro. So we were going to kind of present some student examples from that for you guys. So.
Yeah, so in thinking about this skill, to kind of piggyback off of what Colleen said, you know, we recognize that economists do more than answer multiple choice questions and draw graphs, right? So we really tried to be intentional in thinking about what might be useful to a student in the future if they're looking to go into econ. What would the work of an economist really look like? So in addition to knowing the theory, being able to create the graphs, using those graphs to predict the future impact of a policy, students would have to be able to take real economic data and then explain that data with the theory. So in designing these assessments in this new skill, we really wanted to give students an opportunity to both look at real world data sets and then use what they had learned in class to make sense of those data sets. So this is where our first assessment in this category that is used in both courses, both the micro and the macro courses, was derived from. So the assessment in both classes is called Micro Student Experts, and what it does is give students an opportunity to become experts on one topic throughout the course. And the way that this works is students work in a small group, so with 2 or 3 other individuals, and they are responsible for a couple of different things. First, for becoming kind of the classroom expert on the economic model. So they're responsible for presenting the model to the class at the beginning of the unit rather than kind of a typical teacher-led presentation. And then with that understanding, we ask them to look at real-world data that connects to that topic. So to explicitly make those real-world connections. So they might, for example, look at the BLS unemployment statistics for November of 2022, and then use their understanding of how unemployment is calculated, what that means, to draw conclusions about how the economy is doing. And then a piece that they also really enjoy doing is this connection to peers, where not only are they connecting the data and the theory to kind of larger macroeconomic goals of the United States, they're trying to connect it to things that they interact with every day. So for example, I had a lot of connections to Give-a-thon with presentations in November as students were kind of seeing, okay, this actually relates to what I'm learning about in class. So those were some macro examples. These are some micro examples. Again, it's the same assessment in both courses, but the connections to peers end up being a little bit different across both of those two. So in micro, we have seen more connections to things like financial aid, college applications, tuition, etc.
The other piece that we're asking them to do is to use that additional literacy strand about research. So we're asking them to do the news media connection, and we're really having interesting conversations because our students want to put forth Twitter posts, and so, which is fine. It just gives us a chance to have that conversation of why did you pick this particular person on Twitter? Who are they? Why are they important? Why is what they have to say meaningful? Of course, I'm old school. I default back to is there a printout version of this magazine? But just that piece where we're having that other we're building more than just our discipline literacy and skills. We're also working on those research literacy skills that are important. So that's the real world has really offered us a chance too for kids to pick. It's interesting, kids will pick articles from things that are of interest to them, to hear them tie stuff from countries that they're familiar with, that they're comfortable with. So we're hearing a lot about examples outside of just the American perspective, which is so valuable for them, not only to feel like they can represent things that are meaningful to them, but also for our other students to get exposure to a much wider application of ideas in the market. Okay, so see, this is why I still started. So the next piece that we have is in micro, we've been working on, and we've been doing this again, as Colleen has said. I feel like we should just call the whole thing should be AP Econ. So we started doing some pieces where we were looking at student performance on formatives and trying to give them a chance to say, okay, based on how you did on this particular formative, let's adjust the practice that you're gonna do. And we tried doing some casual, informal workshop type experiences or choices where we would list different opportunities for students to practice. And the thing that we noticed over time, the research in action that we saw in our classroom, was kids default to whatever the dominant personality at the table chooses to do. So if we had 4 or 5 different practices based on level of difficulty or what you needed to work on, kids still would go with, well, so Don would turn over and be like, well, what's Terry doing? And then, whatever Terry picks, that's what Don is gonna do, even if it's really not the best fit for him. And then also there was an element of, you would get the kids who would grab everything. And we're having this conversation of, this is not what you need to take from the options. Maybe I just want you to focus on option A, not A through D, or maybe you just need to do D and C options. So we really started looking at how can we formalize it or put more parameters on this to really help kids, and what language do we need to, for ourselves. So last spring, we got to go to a conference, Learning in the Brain, right? Learning the Brain. This whole group went. It was
Literally.
yeah, it was awesome because I think it was something we had been talking about since before the pandemic. So you can imagine what happens when you get a group of super nerdy people together going on a trip for the first time post-pandemic. One of the conference workshops that we came across was Katie Novak, who has Universal Design for Learning, and her idea is that if we're having a party, her analogy is, if we're having a dinner party, I can make tuna noodle casserole, right? And everybody can eat it. Or I can say, well, yeah, that's easy and that has a lot of variety in it. But the other thing that I could do is, if I want everybody to have a really good time, I could think about what are some options that are available that I could serve that meet more needs or make it fit my guests a little bit better. Because if you had tuna noodle casserole at our house, not a single person would eat it. I might, just because I would feel bad. But we have people in our house who would definitely stick their nose up. And so, so this differentiation push is have all these options, and that's what we were exploring, and it just really wasn't working. And she kind of, like, for us, was when she said, think of it more of like a buffet, that you don't want to be a short order cook. It is not realistic, and we tried. I mean, I felt like, oh my gosh, the pandemic is giving us this opportunity to differentiate and individualize learning, and if I just put every pathway for every kid on Canvas, it'll be amazing. But that's really not what it isn't what our kids need. So Universal Design for Learning is kind of saying, what are the things, the options that you would offer at a buffet that you know are meaningful and purposeful for learning, that give kids choices within some parameters. And so again, if I offer a buffet, I can meet the needs of the vegetarians and the meat eaters and the people who want to keep, who have dietary restrictions because of health issues or religious issues, et cetera. I can make very specific choices that allow people to kind of work and pick and choose within the buffet. And so that's what Universal Design for Learning is. Okay, so what we do is we've created choice boards for our kids. So what we feel like we are is we're the experts in the content, right? We're the experts in the pedagogy. So we have created choice boards in which we pull together all of the opportunities for kids to explore the content. But I mean, you might be surprised by this, but I would not be good doing a video lecture because it's just not my thing. But there are amazing people out there who can. And so I think our kids go out and they explore the internet and they watch these videos, and our piece is, well, how do we pull that, how do we curate that for them, but also give them choice? And are there some things that are better than others? So we are giving them structured class time in which they can access the content either through reading with guiding reading notes. We have different parameters for that. We have graphic organizers, we have traditional note-taking options, and then also some different practice options for them. So on the choice board, kids get to choose what they want to pull from the buffet, but we also have certain pieces on the buffet that say you must have, kind of like, I do think about it like your healthy living of, you must have a protein, you must have a vegetable, you must have, 3 different colors of your veggies, right? I don't know, I just, sorry, the analogy was really good in my head this morning and yesterday. But that's the piece with the choice board. So we give them some guided pieces and say, you must do this, but then there's other choice. And then we will give them a formative assessment, and then based on the formative assessment, we adjust and tailor the practice that comes afterwards. And you're like, okay, yeah, that's what teachers are doing all the time. And our piece is, yes, we've just upped the game in terms of the coaching that goes on, so that when Lindsay does really, really well on a particular topic, I will say, that's great, I'm only gonna just ask for like the enrichment practice, but you've really struggled with understanding this particular content or being able to do these practice problems. can you show me what you've done? And we start having more conversations about what did you do to practice, to try and give them more concrete feedback on, I made this choice to practice and access my learning. So like, in the olden days, I would have said, did you do the Quizlet? Did you do the vocabulary? Or we would have said, you need to work harder, or you need to learn the vocabulary. And now we're saying, okay, how did you practice the vocabulary? Well, this way that you've practiced it doesn't seem to be working. Can we try something different? Can we look at, and so instead of telling kids just study harder or work harder or do more, we're really trying to focus on where do you need to practice, and is the method that you're using working for you? And if it's not, kind of coaching into a different piece. So we're having a lot more one-on-one conversations with kids, or we might be remediating. And so this kind of gets us into our student agency. And student agency is where they are, these components come in here, identity, belonging, resiliency, efficacy, and proficiency. By saying to them, we trust in the choices that you're making in this particular example, because we can see that you're able to perform, you're able to demonstrate mastery or proficiency. These other places, let's back up and rethink what you're doing. And I'm gonna give you a couple options and you can try again. And then, with some students, we've done more hand-holding where we've said, okay, you're overwhelmed, you're drowning. We need to put some more life preserver, and also maybe get you a little swim coach to help you with that. And other students are ready to rock and roll. So we sometimes mix them up with mixed ability. So we might say, okay, this table is gonna work together because on this particular project, and it's good to have kids with different levels of understanding. But then on the next workshop day, we might cluster them based on where they're struggling and do some real targeted intensive remediation based on what students need. So it's very fluid for our kids on a day-to-day basis. I feel like I'm all over. Am I done? Perfect, okay.
So this fits into the idea of, again, going back to student voice survey, the pedagogical effectiveness. And again, you can see the questions that the students are asked to identify there. I'm not gonna read all of them, but essentially, like, how interesting does the teacher make what you're learning in class? What are some of the other big ones? For this class, how clearly does the teacher present the information? How well do you understand or not understand the topics? So again, using that student voice data, this is focusing on micro because this is where we've really been working on this.
Wait, go back. So this one for us is, how well can this teacher tell whether or not you understand the topic? That was a big one for us. We want kids to know that we understand what they're learning and what they're not learning, because otherwise I can't serve you. And then also, because the kids will say, well, I'm an auditory learner, or I'm a visual learner, and I now have a high schooler and a 7th grader who tells me that all the time, and I'm like, no, you're not, honey. But there's more to, right? You can't just only be an auditory learner or only just be a visual learner. There's more to the story and the process.
So what we found through the student voice data is, again, we began this work kind of informally in the fall of 2021, and that particular component was 77%. And then this winter, when we gave the survey again, it has now jumped up to 89%. And this is something that we hold very true because we have juniors and seniors. They're going off to college next year, and we want them to be able to feel confident in the decisions that they are making as students, and be able to advocate for themselves and know that there's a variety of ways that you can go about learning the content. And if it doesn't work the first time, then it's okay to go back and reassess and maybe think, okay, what worked and what didn't, and how can I adjust to do better for the next time?
So with that adjustment piece, one additional component that we wanted to build in a few times throughout the semester was some really targeted self-reflection. The other teachers and I felt like we were having a lot of conversations with frustrated students where they would tell us, well, I studied a lot and I still did bad. And that didn't really give us a whole lot of information in terms of where to kind of direct them for the future. So we designed some kind of very targeted assessment reflections that we've been giving after the 2nd unit test, after the 4th, and after the 6th unit test. And these reflection questions, some of them are from a checklist like you see, and some of them are open-ended, and they're designed to help students identify first, what concepts am I struggling with of the specific content? What must I do in order to be successful on a question like this in the future? So we were noticing trends of vocabulary-related issues versus graphing-related issues, and we wanted students to be able to recognize that for themselves, so that if they can see that vocab is their problem, then they can use a vocab-related tool to study in the future, like making flashcards or something like that. And then we asked them also, okay, now that you've recognized that these are the issues, how might you better prepare in the future for a similar assessment? And again, we felt like giving them a specific checklist of steps that they could take to more actively study would help us avoid the conversation of, well, I reviewed my notes, right? That's like, okay, we're not quite sure what that means, but here are some things that we think might help you to be successful. So these are just some examples of final assessment reflection questions, student work. So for example, the student on the left, when she looked through the questions that she missed, noticed that the issue was looking at a competitive market versus a firm. So something specific that she could review, clearly identify the difference between the two and be successful in the future. And then student on the right is an example of a student that noticed she was having vocabulary issues, and making flashcards might be something that could help her to be successful in the future. So for the future of the course, both AP Micro and Macro, we're hoping to continue to improve valuing of subject through economic application standard. Dr. Wright and I today, we're talking about the last assessment that we just gave in Micro and how could we improve that to kind of better increase student understanding, and then continue to improve student self-efficacy and learning strategies through this implementation of UDL, and again through that very targeted student self-reflection. Yeah, thank you for having us.
A lot that's happened over 3 years.
Yeah.
The end of the 3 years. I know, right?
That's the advantage.
So, any questions about anything? A lot of information we threw at you guys.
I have several.
Choose two.
Choice.
It's really impressive what you just did. And Dr. Caudell and all the groups always sit here and tell us it's not about learning how to teach, it's about learning how kids learn, or finding out how kids learn. And that's exactly, you're sitting there having the kids identify what techniques are that they need to use so that they can learn. And to your point, it's not just, well, I read, well, how did you read, or what did you, really diving into that, it's really impressive. I'm curious, with the first goal, and I waited to ask the question, I hope I can remember. Where people valued the subject in the application. It's interesting because did you find that also then led to have a snowball effect, and then led to a better learning because now they were appreciating how it's used and having other kinds of consequences?
So I think we're all about, we've cut content. So in AP, right, they add more and more content, and the time that we get with kids is getting shorter and shorter. And so we did a significant audit. Our belief was the scores will come. If you're doing what you need to do with kids, the scores will come. And so we felt like it was worth there's some elements of the content. First of all, we couldn't even stand up and lecture every day and cover it all anyway. So there's some stuff that we made sacrifices for. We said kids can get access, some of this stuff they can access pretty easily themselves. Some stuff takes more of us. And valuing in the content, the more we did the enrichment things, the higher the scores on the AP exams have been, because they're really integrating it. They're synthesizing it to a different level that beyond what they would need to do for the AP exam. So they talk about it, like after the exam, they're talking about, oh yeah, I remember the labor market project that we did, that really helped me to understand marginal revenue product, and then that's how I got that graph down. So we are finding that by using the application material, they're getting a deeper understanding of the material.
Cool, like the conversations. Like I have kids all the time, they'll email me and be like, oh my gosh, this was in the news today, did you see this? It's like, no, I didn't, but thanks for sharing. Like they're being more aware of the world around them and starting to make some of those personal connections of just like, oh, like we were just talking about foreign currency market in class, and like they're looking at what was it, the microchip factory, and how it's like the new largest like financial investment in US history, and they're like, oh, we just talked about this concept in class. I'm like, yeah, like that's awesome. And so they get excited about it more than they ever did, because we didn't realize until we started doing this that for us, it's easy to make those direct connections because we're so ingrained in it. It's what we do, it's what we live and breathe. But for them, it wasn't, and we kind of took that for advantage. And I feel like now that we've made more of an explicit effort to help them see how it lives in the world around them, they're getting more excited about it. We've had parents come up to us and talk to us and be like, the conversations that they have with us at night, like we didn't even know that they knew this stuff about the economy, and it's that's awesome. Like that's what we want to have happen. So,
and the other thing I would add to that, to Steve's point, that I think is really important, that they didn't even take the time to recognize themselves, but I think it is very important, is from the time we went to this conference to even their data in all 6 categories in the fall. Even though our initial conversation was this conversation of valuing of subject last spring, well, even before last spring, right? Yeah. But then even the results come this fall in all 6 areas, as they started to make these shifts, they saw tremendous growth. And so even though these are the only 2 focus, to your point, when that entire culture and that climate of the classroom changes, we see tremendous growth in all areas.
I guess I had the same thought about the way you're teaching, or how they're learning to learn. I mean, that's gonna apply in everything that they do, and it's gonna give them a better understanding of themselves, and it's gonna give them the confidence that they need, and it's just like goes on and on. That's fantastic.
Thank
Yeah,
you, guys.
Yeah, just real quick, so for those classes, are they just 1 semester class or 2?
Yes.
One.
But you could do both.
Yeah.
They could do both.
Do a lot of kids take both? I was wondering.
We're
We
seeing more
find
and
that
more,
of
we're
them
seeing
are
more and
taking-
more crossover. The nice thing with it being a semester, there's a lot of flexibility. So we're seeing some kids take one junior year, the other one pops up senior year. I've got one who's doing back to back in the same semester. I do think that is reflective of kind of like what's going on in the room, is that more kids are saying, ooh, like this is not only accessible, but it's not just a silo.
I've also had a few students take college prep economics and then decided that they wanted to take an AP. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about, if you can, the difference between how the students are taking to these strategies in college prep versus AP?
Yes. So in college prep, with the resources that we offer on the choice board, so for example, we do use the choice boards in college prep. It's a little bit more structured. So like Dr. Wright said, you have to take the protein and you have to take the vegetables. We do give a little bit more guidance in terms of which resources they should be pulling from. But I have seen, and this is the first semester that we've implemented it in college prep, I have seen the grades in college prep go up as well. So it has been something that has been very successful in college prep. And we do a similar type of data application assessment, what we call it the current state of the economy assessment, where students look at unemployment numbers, inflation numbers, and GDP numbers, and then they use all of what they've learned throughout the semester to make sense of those of that data and argue, okay, we're headed into a recession, or we think the economy is doing really well. And when I ask the students to reflect on the semester at the end of the semester, they do say that assignment was really valuable, and it kind of helps them tie everything together.
I think the cool thing too is when we talk about them being experts, like you would be amazed what they explore and share with us because they're the ones leading the course then for that topic. So even in college prep, they come with their A game, and we've got the backup ready to go in case they flake out and no one shows up or they miss something. But we're finding over time, we're not they're nailing it. And it's really cool to see them.
To give you the background, when we start every new topic, the kids actually introduce the topic to their classmates. So instead of us coming up and saying, okay, this is what GDP is, this is how we calculate it, yada yada, it's like, okay, we're gonna talk about GDP today, here are the student experts. And it's really the students teaching their peers about the topic. And then we come in and fill in the blanks and go to that next level that they're
Yeah.
not ready to teach their peers about, but this is how we introduce all of our topics.
And I have to say, when writing rec letters, when, you know, cause we get some juniors, when we ask them like, what is the thing in the class that stood out for you, or what are you most proud of, or what do you, they're coming back to these pieces. They're not, I mean, they're like, yes, I grew in my analysis, but what they, where they're really giving us something that's meaty, that I can talk about in a rec letter, and feel confident at, yeah, you're right, this is, I have a sample of this work, but I mean, that's what's exciting to us too, is when they're coming back and saying, yeah, when I presented to my peers, you know, a year ago in October about blah, 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 that was really cool, because it was the first time, you know, I was the rock star, like, awesome, so.
And they like take ownership of it. I had a kid that like, their topic was dealing with monetary policy. Literally, like last week, he walked in and said, "So do you think the Fed's gonna raise the interest rate by like?" And I was just like, "I don't know, Matt." I'm like, "My guess is this, but I don't know." And he's like, "How's it gonna play on the stock market?" I'm like, "Literally, you could have given like no care in the world about this class like 3 months ago, and then you did this presentation, and now like you analyze interest rates like a hawk." I'm like, "Okay, great."
Nominated for the Fed.
Yeah, right? I know. I'm like, someday he might be. I'm like, oh gosh.
By the way,
Don't forget where you learned all this.
I know
so, yeah.
a Stevenson grad who's a PhD who worked at the New York Fed, who was a professor in college who just took a job to go back to the Fed. So maybe you can use this person.
Yeah, we will.
I just want to chime in. I have to say that this was like the sleeper hit of 2022 for me, because when we sat down and you were like microeconomics and macroeconomics, I was like, it's gonna be amazing. But your energy that you're bringing to this work, and I love the fact that the way that you're approaching this work is meaningful, because when you were talking about differentiation early on, I was like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of heavy lifting for educators. You have found a way to work so much more efficiently and effectively. Your energy is coming through, and I'm like, oh my gosh, these kids are excited. They should all take microeconomics and macroeconomics.
We think so too.
But they're also learning about themselves as learners, and to Steve's point, that's just such a wonderful thing that they're gonna take with them
I think
wherever
that's
they go.
our piece. I remember a long time ago, Mark brought in somebody who said, the speaker who talked about where do we want our kids in 30 years, or at 30, sorry, where do we want our kids at 30, where do we want them? And so we've always seen this as journey, that we're the first step on the journey. And that's what we look at, is what are some skill sets that we can start laying the ground for and support that, you know, because everyone says, well, will you use this in your job? I don't know. The labor market's changing a whole lot. But will I need to be able to reflect on what I've done, find out, you know, the information will get more and more accessible. So how do I kind of wade through the information, pull out what's important, but also, yeah, find out what's working for me and what's not. So what is feedback? How can I give myself feedback? You know, that's that efficacy piece.
Awesome.
I'm a big fan for your choice board concept. Love it so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
so much.
Very
Great
wonderful.
presentation.
Have a nice holiday.
And we're sorry that,
Happy holidays.
Take cookies.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, well, it's all
Downhill from there.
So next item is approval of our board policy updates. For the most part, these were, again, as they typically are, mostly tiny wordsmithing and footnotes, Carol?
Correct.
With the exception of policy 4:90, which is student activity and fiduciary funds from press issue 106. And Sean, do you want to give us just like a brief elevator pitch? What was the change?
It really just, what they're taking a look at is how you record those funds on our line. It's nothing. It's nothing. We've already been doing it, so it's all great.
But this is, you had the attorneys look at it though,
Oh, yeah.
just to be sure that we were in, just to be sure that we were in alignment. And after
Sorry,
you
yes.
approve a motion.
Yes.
fire away. So, anyway, the board, tonight we're recommending that the board adopt policy updates to current board policies as contained within Press Plus, issue 109, as well as policy 4:90 as presented.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Got it.
So Eric and I were talking earlier, because I had some trouble with this was my own clicking on the links. And after he helped me, I found the changes in the footnotes and stuff in the policies. And what I'm confused about is, how do we use, so they specifically say that when you adopt the policy, you do not adopt the footnote. It says that in the press thing. How do we use, are the footnotes kind of reference stuff that we would go back to? But they're not actually in the board policy?
Correct.
Okay.
If you went on our website, you would not see any footnotes listed online.
Yeah, interesting.
It's more of
Really
like an
focused.
explanation.
I'm sorry, any other?
And it keeps us, I mean, just real quickly, it keeps us in compliance, right, from a compliance
Correct.
perspective.
Okay, so, any questions about the policies? Would you please poll the board?
It's a voice vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah.
Passes.
Okay, and then you will see our typical human resources report, nothing particularly out of the ordinary in there. But if you have any questions, certainly now would be a time to ask. And that takes us to the business section, and we begin tonight with a public hearing for the 2022 tax levy.
Correct, so just briefly before we go into public comment, as you know, this is an annual routine for the school board to set the levy. The levy is of course based on the consumer price index or inflation, the equalized assessed value of property, EAV, and new property. So the CPI for last year was 7%. It is capped at 5% per the property tax extension limitation law. The value of our properties as of November are estimated to go up 2.5%, and the estimated value of new construction is $45 million. So with that, we are in fact going to be recommending a levy for the 2022 tax year in the amount of $115,300,000 even. And that would, $115,300,000, thank you. Forgot how to read today. And that would leave our projected fund balance, or what I should say is our projected fund balance right now at the end of this year is scheduled to be $41,605,747 on an modified accrued basis.
It's at the end of the fiscal year.
That's at the end of the fiscal year, correct. So right now, it's recommended that we open a public hearing in accordance with the Truth in Taxation Law to hear public comment on the 2022 tax levy.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
This is a voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're open for public comment. Public comment, there is none, so can I have a motion that we close the Truth in Taxation
There
public
was
hearing?
no public comment.
So moved.
Second.
And this again is a voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So that passes. Then can I have a motion to approve the tax levy?
So moved.
Second.
Any other questions for Sean before we vote on the motion? Okay, would you please poll the board?
Gerson.
Aye.
Moon's aye. Tyre.
Aye.
Frost.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Benyosa.
Aye.
Chow.
Aye.
It carries 7-0.
Okay, next item?
Next item is the approval of contractors or the contractors for the summer of '23 and summer '24 improvements to academic facilities. As we've discussed previously in our site facility meetings. We have a number of renovations and maintenance projects to keep in line, keep our facilities in line and not really age, if you will. And break down. The bids happened over the course of the last several, maybe 10 days. And what I'll say is that the bids came in about $230,000 under estimates, or the most recent estimates that we had in October. So following any discussion, we are recommending that the Board of Education award the contracts as presented earlier and above in your board book, and a cost not to exceed $9,929,771 even. And that does include the professional services for both our architects and construction management firm.
Okay, can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second. Then, Sean, I just wanted to make note that that figure includes some costs that are a carryover into 2024.
Correct. In fact, this is gonna cross 2 fiscal years.
Correct.
This fiscal year, next fiscal year, and possibly even into 25.
Right, so it's a little bit higher than, I think, overall than we had projected, but
And
It includes
it includes projects
Yeah.
for the next couple of years.
And
So we're spanning 2 budgets here?
we're spanning 2 budgets a little bit, and part of the reason that we bid some of those projects together, one, we couldn't do the project in its entirety over one summer, so we had to do it over 2 summers. And so we created economies of scale by holding the bid all together right now, saving the district some money, as well as ensuring that all of the materials that we need will be available when we're ready and running. We're ready and running to hit the ground and moving.
And that's the PAC.
Yeah. And that's mostly in the performing
Mostly
arts center.
PAC.
Yeah, for sure.
So we have the motion, we've talked a little bit, any other questions for Sean? Because we've spent a lot of time in site facilities and finance going through the consequences of this. Would you please poll the board?
Certainly. Moons, aye. Tyre.
Aye.
Frost.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Ben Joseph.
Aye.
Chow.
Aye.
Gorson.
Aye.
Well, it carries 7-0.
And then you can see we just have our, seems like quarterly FOIA request from Smart Procure. Again, trying to sell us their software. We keep supplying them the information. Our software does fabulous. So other than that, I have nothing else for tonight.
Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
I'm not sure who was first on that, Terry, but
Who's the second?
I'll second it.
Oh, thank you.
any questions for Eric on the consent agenda? Okay, would you please poll the board?
Sure. Tyre.
Aye.
Frost.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Ben Joseph.
Aye.
Chow.
Aye.
Gorson.
Aye.
Moons, aye. Approved.
Okay, so just a couple final items for tonight. The first is you have in front of you a book that, I'm not sure who recommended that. Steve recommended that?
Yeah, they used it in one of the sessions we went to.
Yep, so from downtown, that was a recommendation that came out of the conference, so we wanted to make sure that everybody had a copy of that. Also, we talked about, especially for our new board members, each month, Troy and I host a parent breakfast. And a couple of you had asked, well, can I get a copy of the letter? Like, what do you send home for that? So this is just a copy of the letter that Troy and I send home, and the documents that we send with it. We usually send 100 letters home, 25 freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors. We get about 10 folks that come to those meetings each month-ish. It's actually a great number because we're able to have really good conversations. Jamie was sitting in on those conversations the last couple months. This morning, and we frame the conversations, just so you know, all around constructive feedback. So actually, to the point you were making earlier, we don't really want to hear your compliments at that meeting. You know, we get that here and there, but this meeting is very specifically focused on constructive feedback. And sometimes parents come in with a long list. Sometimes they just have one item. this morning, it was interesting, we talked all about students not having lockers, to freshman advisory, to some actually good suggestions for communication, course selection, how to identify career pathways, things like that. So it was good. And we had about 8 parents there who gave us some really good feedback. So just wanted you to be able to see kind of what that, information looks like, and go from there. And then the last item I have for you is, as some of you know, Ann loves to make toffee. So we have your yearly batch of coffee for our board members.
Thank you.
Sean, you get none.
I figured as much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't even get a lump of coal.
No, not even a lump.
There you go.
And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
You're very welcome.
You're very welcome.
You. Voice vote? All in favor?
Oh, thank you. Happy holidays.
All opposed? Adjourn. Thank you.